Hi, it's Dr. Z. In this video, I will review key concepts in social psychology. By the end of this video, you'll be able to explain concepts related to social influence, describe 3 classic social psychology experiments, and explain concepts in how group interaction impacts our behavior. Please feel free to pause the video at any time to take notes. Have you ever changed your mind because, someone else shared their opinion with you? If the answer is yes, your personal actions were shaped because of someone else. Research in social psychology explores how our interactions with others impact an individual's behavior. More specifically, social influence is how the mere presence of others can influence a person's behavior. The concepts of conformity and obedience are the most salient concepts in social influence. When conducting social psychology experiments, researchers use deception to determine if a participant's behavior can be manipulated. There are key terms to understand in this research process. The term confederate is an individual who poses as a participant but is actually working with the researcher. Indeed, this person is in on the experiment and is acting or playing along for the sake of whatever deception is required. On the other hand, the naive participant is an individual who's not aware of the deception being used in the experiment. Social psychology researchers observe the behavior of the naive participant who is clueless to what is going on, and they measure how they are influenced by the actual or imagined presence of others. Do you think of yourself as a nonconformist? Someone who does not follow whatever others tell you to do? Well, research suggests that everyone is subject to social influence in some way. The fact that you're watching this lecture video is indicative that you are conforming to the social norms of completing assignments in this college course. Conformity occurs when an individual changes or adopts behaviors and attitudes to be consistent with social norms and expectations. In the original film Mean Girls, Katie, who's played by Lindsay Lohan, initially struggles to fit in when transferring to her new high school. To become popular and accepted, Katie recognizes the social norms and expectations at this new school by joining the Plastics, the A-list girl clique, as shown in this photo. This film is an excellent example of how groups can make us conform to social norms. There are 3 classic social psychology experiments. The first one is the Solomon-Asch experiment from 1955. This experiment studied the concept of conformity and consisted of 1 naive participant and at least 4 confederates. Additionally, the experimenter in the white lab coat was also a confederate. The group were seated around a table and were asked one by one to tell the experimenter which of the 3 lines matched the standard line. When watching the experiment, please pay close attention to the young man highlighted in the photo, who is the naive participant in this experiment. As part of the experiment, the Confederates all gave the same wrong answer, which of course puzzled the poor naive participant. While the naive participant gave the correct answer on the first round, he then quickly conformed to the rest of the group. Asch's experiment showed the power of conformity. In a group situation with strangers, people will conform so they do not stand out. A replication of this study with a group of people who actually knew each other resulted in the naive participant conforming even more quickly. Now, how often do you do what others tell you to do? Or how often do you follow the rules? These questions highlight the concept of obedience. Obedience occurs when an individual behaves according to the rules of those in authority. To be honest, we need obedience for society's survival. We need people to follow the rules in state and federal laws that keep our society functioning. Can you imagine if the film The Purge happened in real life? Whew, scary to even think about it. At the same time, however, unquestioned obedience can lead to atrocities, like the Holocaust during World War II. The film The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is set during World War II and tells the story of two young boys at a German concentration camp. One young boy is the son of the German commandant, and the other young boy is a Jewish boy imprisoned at the camp. Unfortunately, the unquestioned obedience of most German soldiers, despite knowing the consequences of their actions, led to the death of hundreds of thousands of people that the German government did not deem worthy. The second classic social psychology experiment is the Stanley Milgram experiment from 1963. The tragedy of the Holocaust and his own Jewish background contributed to Dr. Milgram's experiment on obedience. This experiment used deception by telling participants that the study was about the effects of punishment on memory. The naive participant was labeled the teacher, who was to teach the words to the other participant to memorize and to recall. However, the other participant, who was labeled the learner, was in fact a Confederate. The young man highlighted in the photo is the teacher and is observing the experimenter connect the learner to a shocking apparatus. While this video was a modern-day replication of the Milgram experiment, similar results were found. The naive participant, that is the teacher, demonstrated obedience to the experimenter even when shocking the Confederate was harmful. In Milgram's original study, almost 2/3 of participants delivered the lethal 450 volts. Unfortunately, Milgram did not debrief the naive participants after the study, and some of them developed anxiety and PTSD-like symptoms because they thought they had killed someone. Today, social psychology experiments have high ethical standards for the use of deception by requiring informed consent before the study begins and debriefing after the study ends. The final classic social psychology experiment is the Stanford prison experiment in 1971. This experiment, led by Dr. Philip Zimbardo, studied obedience as well as social roles and social norms in a group setting. Dr. Zimbardo created a simulated prison in the basement of a Stanford University building, and he randomly selected participants to play the role of either a guard or a prisoner. When watching the experiment, please pay close attention to the young men highlighted in this photo, who are playing the role of prisoners. As you observed in the experiment, the study started off slow and kind of boring. Unfortunately, the experiment ended after 6 days when prisoners developed anxiety and hopelessness as a result of the guards' sadistic behavior. Decades later, in follow-up interviews with these young men, most described how they lost their sense of self when they were in the role of guard or in the role of prisoner.